Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report for the channel, and it's a little bit of a smaller match today. It is a 15 threat, which isn't bad to play now and then because it really makes you have to pick and choose wisely from your roster of 10. So yeah, it's a 15 threat match between the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Uncanny X-Men. So let's go look at the specifics for both sides. It's just 4 minis per side with such a low threat value. The Guardians of the Galaxy being led by Peter Quill, of course, giving out those, what they call winging it tokens at the top of each round, so they'll be visible on the table. You can use them up to get rerolls. He's bringing along Beta Ray Bill as our heavy hitter, Agent Venom as a guest star, although he is classed as Guardians of the Galaxy because of him teaming up with them in the comics, and Gamora. And their tactics cards that we just come down here a little bit: Venomized, Survival, Crew of the Milano, Foreign Assignment, and Lovable Misfits. For the Uncanny X-Men, it's almost Team Big Base because 3 of them are on the 60mm base, being led by Professor X. His affiliation bonus is Xavier's School for the Gifted Youngsters, which is once per turn when an allied character spends 1 on a superpower or a reactive superpower, someone else in your team gains 1 power. So, little word salad, but pretty good. Helps share power around. It's kind of like the A-Force affiliation bonus, but for sharing power upon spending power as opposed to getting hit. He is bringing along Beast, Jean Grey, and Angel, and because of one of the tactics cards being brought today, we might even see Archangel, depending on what happens to Angel. So, if we just come down here, their tactics cards are First Class, Mind Wipe, Xavier's Dream, Ultimate Sacrifice, and Fallen. So that is the one that might bring Archangel out if... Yeah, does it even cost power, or does he just do it? No, he just does it. So when Angel would flip his card, he'll be turning into a 4 threat character instead of a 3 threat character, on his wounded side to be fair, but he becomes a bit more of a killing machine, so we'll see if that actually happens. Here is the 2 crisis cards being played, and of course the threat value is on the secure, which is Gamma Waves. So you know this, the 3 Gamma Shelters, you take damage if you're not within 2 of a Gamma Shelter at the end of the round, and you score 1 for your own home side Gamma Shelter, 1 for the middle, or 2 for the one that started closest to the enemy. And the other of all-time favourite crisis cards for me anyway is Fear Group's World is Worthy Terrorized Cities. It's the 4 hammers, so you have to spend 1 extra for tactics cards, but you get 1 extra die to attacks. It's going to be a very bloody, messy affair as a result of mixing these 2 again. On that note, we just look at the board. Gamma Shelters in a line. There's a hammer on each of them. They're slightly offset just to show they're there, but they are technically on the same spot. Hammer on that flank of the table, hammer on that flank of the table. So we'll see who's deploying on what side of the table and be back with all that set up after this quick word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. We are back with everything set up. The Guardians of the Galaxy are to your left and will be taking first activation. The X-Men are to your right. Essentially the Guardians are in a line. The exception is Gamora slightly down here in the middle of the street. She doesn't know how cars work, I guess. Professor X and Beast together, and then because they have flight, Angel and Jean Grey are on top of the X bar, which I think is just about visible to the top right of your screen there. So with that, let's jump into round 1. It'll be a very bloody short game, I would imagine. Not just because of the crisis cards being played, but because of the low threat value. Well, let's see who comes out on top. So technically the first thing that happened was the Winging It tokens got given out by Peter. 1 was given to Agent Venom, 1 to Bill, and 1 to Gamora. Gamora was the one who activated first for them, moving along to get close to the hammer on the edge of the table. Having to move again, she positioned herself behind the car there, just within 1 on the far side of it actually, and paid her 1 power to pick it up. So she's not going to be safe when the gamma radiation sweeps the map. First activation for the Uncanny X-Men was Angel, and basically a snap for him. He started up on top of the X bar. He has flight. He's a medium move on that larger size base still, but he still needed to use both to get over to the hammer on the other flank. Flew next to it, picked up the hammer. He is not going to be safe from the gamma radiation either. Worth pointing out, just so you know, he does have healing factor 1. So he'll heal that damage back at the end of his next activation. I didn't know he had a healing factor. I don't know him that well. I think he was only briefly in the original cartoon before becoming Archangel. So I'm going to ask a nerd question, but I'm sure people will know the answer. I don't. If he has healing factor, why didn't his wings grow back when he was mutilated? I don't know. You can let me know though. Beta Ray Bill activated for the Guardians and has staked his claim on the middle Gamma Shelter, but not before finishing a medium move on the far side of the closest Gamma Shelter, paying one of his 2 power, because he's blessed by the Allfather, to pick up the hammer to add to his collection with the one he already has, and then he moved to be the only one currently securing that middle. Xavier activated for his X-Men and stayed quite far away, but did do a move, staying very close to the closest Gamma Shelter. He paid his 1 power to pick up the hammer there. Oh, there should have been an extra die because of that hammer. Let's see if it would have mattered. It was another skull. Nope, it did not matter, so I can carry on. He used his basic attack, which is a psionic dart, 5 dice normally, up to 6, against Beta Ray Bill. It's range 4, and Beta Ray Bill used up his wing token for, you can reroll up to 2 dice, I believe it is, kind of similar to Spider Sense, but he fully blocked the successes. Because of that wild, however, that Professor X got, he is rooted. You have no idea how long it's been since I've seen the root special condition. I could not remember for the life of me what it did. It's been so long. It means you have to pay 1 power before doing a superpower or a reactive superpower. So essentially it's +1 to the cost of doing any abilities. It's pretty good. I don't know why it's called root, because you'd think that would like keep you rooted to the spot or something, or you have to use up a movement action to clear the status or something. It's the status condition that's never made sense. Peter activated and just moved up to be the one holding the closest to their deployment Gamma Shelter for the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's just chilling, used the 1 activation, didn't do anything else. If I remember rightly, if you let him get a lot of power to spam those element guns, they can be quite annoying, so it's probably worth just leaving him alone back there. Jean Grey activated for the Uncanny X-Men, just leaving Beast after that, and she was not useless. She did just move twice for actual actions, but because of that latent psychic potential rule of hers, she gets 2 extra power in the power phase, which is insane, so she has 3 power phase. It's like a Hulk. Anyway, she spent all of that on, what is it called, matter transmutation. You pick a character that has an activated token within 2 and push them small. So she shoved Beta Ray Bill off of that point. Now he is still safe. He's not going to take gamma radiation damage, but he's no longer holding the center. So even if Agent Venom goes up there now, Beast can swing it in their favour unless Agent Venom can force her to move. Last activation of round 1 for the Guardians of the Galaxy was Agent Venom. He moved up to where you can see him. He is within 2 of his home Gamma Shelter, so he's protected by it even though he's not contesting it. And he spent his 1 power he started the game with on chucking an incendiary grenade at Jean Grey. The purpose of that incendiary grenade doesn't even generate him any power, is just to apply the incinerate. It's not usually meant for doing a lot of damage. It's 5 dice energy, and he rolled 2 crits, and then he made use of his wing token to reroll some more successes. Jean did pretty well with her defense, to be fair, but even then, despite that, 3 damage still got through, and she got set on fire. So certainly could have gone better. Maybe she is useless after all. Either way, it's over to Beast to end off the round. It is also at this moment we should mention that I absolutely totally forgot about First Class, which is always used at the start of the game, because why wouldn't you? Because it means they don't spend power to pick up objectives, and you do a lot of that in turn 1. So retroactively applying this, so it just means Angel and Xavier have 1 extra power. Technically Xavier could have spent that to give Jean a reroll on that attack that just went through, but we're not going to change that. They're just going to have the power that they should still have, because I totally forgot about First Class after mentioning it at setup. And Beast is ending the turn throwing himself right into harm's way. He is smack dab in front of 3 enemies, which is very bold. He does have the Professor and Jean for support, but he's trying to take a little bit of heat off of her because she got a little battered by an incendiary grenade there. She isn't even holding a hammer. So that is going to take us to scoring. At the end of round 1, the Guardians of the Galaxy hold 2 of the worthy hammers. Gamora has 1 down here, and Beta Ray Bill, who eventually got shoved back there, has the other for 2 victory points. They also hold their home Gamma Shelter for a 3rd. The Uncanny X-Men have the other 2 hammers. Angel has 1, Professor X has 1, and they hold their home shelter and the middle, so that gives them the swinging victory point. As we go into round 2, 4 playing 3 in the X-Men's favour, but it is the Guardians who have retained first activation. Gamora is taking 1 damage from gamma radiation sweeping across the table, as is Angel, who's hidden behind that truck at the top of the screen there. But if he ends up activating before anything else happens to him, his healing factor is just going to get rid of that anyway. So, into round 2. As we start round 2, there's a couple of things to cover. First, who has the tokens for winging it for turn 2 for the Guardians? Gamora, Beta Ray Bill, and Agent Venom again. Gamora's going to be the one activating, however, first things first, Lovable Misfits is being played, so any number of Guardians characters can pay 1, and then depending on what they roll, stuff happens. Already rolled that out, so then we'll go into Gamora's activation afterwards. Beta Ray Bill and Agent Venom, who are Guardians affiliated, both rolled a hit, which means enemy characters within 3 of the character holding or contesting an objective token suffers 1 damage. That's pretty good. We'll apply that in a second. Gamora rolled a shield and Peter rolled a blank. They both have the same effect. They immediately advance small, which is also pretty good. So we'll have all that resolved, and then we'll go to Gamora's actual activation. And with Lovable Misfits resolved, that's where everyone ended up. Peter actually went back a little bit. He's still kind of body blocking the home gamma shelter, but he wanted to go back a little bit because he has range 4 in his attacks anyway, so he might as well. Beast ended up taking 2 damage, 1 each from Beta Ray Bill and Agent Venom because he's contesting or holding an objective. Jean is thankfully out of range 3 of Bill, so she only took 1 from Agent Venom because her damage is getting up there. Gamora advanced over the car with that small movement she was allowed and has ended up there. So now we're going to her actual activation. This has proven to be very good for them. Well, Gamora went for a teeny tiny assassination attempt on the man in the chair. She moved along to contest to the home gamma shelter for the X-Men, and then she just tried to do a basic strike or god strike or whatever it is for her. 6 dice physical, only the successes have been left behind, on Professor X, including using up the winging it token to get 2 rerolls on failures. He rolls 6 because of his mystic defense unless you pay 2 power. She didn't have the power to pay. So he rolled fantastically and got 4 wilds, which is a 1 in 8 chance, I think, right? So that's a very apt roll, I guess, for someone with mental powers like him. So he fully blocked it, which also means she doesn't proc the bleed on him. So he got real lucky there. Oh wait, doesn't she have a hammer? I think 1 hammer. Yeah, she has a hammer, right? She should have rolled 1 extra die. It matters. Is that a success? It's a blank. Okay, it doesn't matter. Gotta remember those hammers though. Jean activated first for the X-Men. She had a bit of a disappointing round. First of all, she spent 3 power on battlefield manipulation to pick up the size 4 Captain America statue and hawked it at Peter's face. Peter didn't do too well with his defense roll and took 4 damage from it, so that was fine. For her actual actions, she used a psionic bolt. That is the roll there. Ridiculously bad. That's how it ended up though, wasn't that at first? Into Agent Venom. Professor X put in 2 to give her rerolls with Professor X's guidance. They weren't all skulls at that point, just to be clear. They rolled into 2 more skulls, which is the ridiculous part. So she had 1 success, which he blocked. If she'd had a wild, she could have done Pierce and at least got 1 through, but no. For her other action, she is clearing that Incinerate, unfortunately. So, not super great there for her. I'm not going to mention it literally every single time, but Jean in turn 1, she did that manipulation which generated someone else a power. She just chucked that statue using a superpower, so that generates 1 power for someone because of Xavier's affiliation bonus. It's way too tedious to mention every time. It is being done, just mentioning that on camera. Peter Quill activated, spent 3 power on going full auto with those element guns, which is what I was afraid of, and range 4 blasted them into Jean Grey. Now he's rolling, what, 7 dice, or whatever it was. He only got 2 successes, neither of them were wild, so no status effects applied. But Jean couldn't roll any successes on her defense roll, so she took 2 damage and is dazed. As it turns out, Jean Grey is still useless, which is just sad for someone so powerful. So yeah, she's dazed. Then for his other action, he just did his normal element guns into Beast, and he couldn't roll to save himself either, so he took 1 damage from also a very bad attack roll. So the dice are sort of favouring the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not rolling well, but the X-Men are most certainly rolling worse. Beast activated and he had a busy turn. I'm not going to say he had a good turn, but he had a busy turn. He started by spending 4 on Animalistic Freestyle, his spender, and he got every proc on it. He got a wild, so he could throw the target away small. He has to do a medium move afterwards, and also bleed. Forgot that part. So Agent Venom will be bleeding. He also took 3 damage and is being pushed back slightly. With the medium move, Beast put himself firmly within contesting range of the back gamma shelter there. He then just did his basic acrobatic strike, 5 dice physical with ambush on a wild, but didn't get any wilds. Into Star-Lord, hoping to do the 2 damage to daze Star-Lord. He did 1. so he can't even do that. But he's forcing them to at least stay back there a little bit. Beta Ray Bill was up next for the Guardians, and he had what I would call a good turn. It started with Crew of the Milano being played right here. Guardians characters can pay 1, they remove any special conditions they have and can't get any for the rest of the round. Bill and Agent Venom both paid 1, so that's their stats effects gone. For Bill's actual action, he did his basic strike into Beast, got him for 2 damage, which gave him enough power to then spend 3 on immeasurable strength to pick Beast up and chuck him into the car there. The car is larger than Beast, because that's a slightly larger than average car, so we're counting it as size 3. So he takes 1 impact damage from that by default, and that was enough to cap out his 6 health. I can't remember if I mentioned on camera, but Star-Lord has 1 health left after Beast was done with him. So unfortunately, that is Beast dazed as well. Then for his other actual action, because immeasurable strength was not an action, Beta Ray Bill just moved medium and is now technically the only one contesting the centre since Jean is dazed. From out of nowhere and probably a bit too late, Angel activated. He was stuck up there behind the truck. He can fly over it, of course, but yeah, he was out of position. So he moved twice, medium, and is back to having someone securing this furthest gamma shelter. So it's going to force them to have to be a bit careful, but it's not great. He wasn't able to attack. It's over to Agent Venom now as the final Guardians activation, with Professor X still to go after that. So Agent Venom spent 2 on Web Swing, or Symbiote Web Swing, whatever his version's called, to get placed within 3. Then he moved medium, ended up over here with Professor X. They're going right in on him. He is contesting the Gamma Shelter there as well. He used his basic attack on Professor X. Professor X fully blocked it, but he got a wild, so regardless of whether or not it does damage, he is now bleeding. And it is over to Xavier to end off the round. So Xavier spent 1 power on Mental Suggestion, 6 dice Mystic into Agent Venom, got him for 2 damage, and more importantly, after it's resolved, you move them their speed. So he has been moved into the street down here, and with that 2 damage, when the Gamma Waves sweep across in the cleanup phase, or rather at the end of the round, whenever it says it procs, he's taking 1 damage and that's enough to daze him. So as we go into the next round, he is going to be on his daze side. Either way, then he just did his basic Psionic Dart, still not able to get any wilds in his rolls, but he did pretty well with just how many successes he had, into Gamora, and she ended up taking 4, which is pretty good. Unfortunately for him, he didn't cure his bleed though, so when he ends his activation, he has taken 1 damage. With that, we are going into scoring. At the end of round 2, it is fair to say the X-Men took a little bit of a whack in there. Scores wise though, the Guardians of the Galaxy still hold 2 hammers, 1 on Gamora, 1 on Beta Ray Bill for 2, and they hold the Central Gamma Shelter for 3, so that takes them up to 6. The X-Men hold the other 2 hammers on the 2 of them that did not get dazed, so Angel and Professor X, and they don't hold any of the Gamma Shelters. The left of your screen, home side for the Guardians, is a draw between Angel and Peter, and then the right side is a tie between Professor X and Gamora. So no scored on either side there, so it's completely even, 6 aside as we go into the next round. Guardians still going first with Jean Grey, Beast and Agent Venom all flipping their cards. As we start round 3, the Wing 8 tokens have been given to Peter, Bill and Gamora. Peter activated and he went full auto with his element guns into Beast, doing 2 damage but getting 3 wilds, so he's slowed, bled and shocked him, which is just lovely. Then he tried to finish Beast off, going in with just a basic element guns attack. At this point, Angel spent on Ultimate Sacrifice, expecting him to roll as well again. So Angel spends 2, although 3 because he's holding a hammer, to become the target, and if he gets dazed or KO'd by the attack, the person he was protecting loses or heals 3 damage and all special conditions go away. So it would have been really good, except Peter whiffed the roll, and you have to decide before the attack, because when the attack is declared. So Angel only ended up taking 2 damage from that, which is far and away not enough to take him out. Peter's in a dangerous place, he's probably going to get dazed, but Beast is so close to just being removed from the table, and is just swimming in stat effects now. Angel activated with the express goal of taking Peter out. He did his basic attack, it's a beam 3, 4 dice, generate 1 power flat on each person hit. Did that into Peter, only needing to do 1 damage, and that's just as well because that's all he was able to do. So Peter is dazed, and then he positioned himself such that it's going to be hard for Beta Ray just to get back in 1 move. In fact, I don't think he can, because 1 medium move would put him on top of Peter, which isn't allowed obviously. So he'd have to go around with 2 if he wants to contest their home Gamma Shower. It's the best bet he could do in the situation. Well, Better Ray Bill activated and he didn't care about going to the back objective. As it turns out, he's quite happy where he is. He spent on summoning the Storms into Beast, ironically, I guess, because Storm's an X-Men, whatever. Only did one, so then he did his basic strike, and of course, the way with this game, the basic strike did more damage. It did 2 with the damage already on him, and remember he was bleeding and all that. Anyway, Beast is out of there, so he didn't really get to do much. The problem is, totally forgot, he's only got 2 energy defense. I don't really know why he's only got 2 energy defense. I guess because he's a 3 threat. But yeah, it feels like he should be a 3-3-3. But whatever. That is him unfortunately gone. It does mean the Better Rebuild isn't moving because he spent all his actions. And it does mean that currently Angel is actually holding the furthest Gamma Shower. So that's worth 2 if it doesn't change. Jean Grey activated for the X-Men and she tried so hard to take Bill out and it took everything she had. She had a lot of power to play with though. She activated, she spent 3 to pick up the size 3 car there because it's a larger than average car and chucked it into Better Ray Bill. He took 1 damage from that. He was then hit by her big spender telekinetic force, 9 dice, did 5 damage but he paid 1 to reduce it down to 4. It includes a throw, so he was chucked into the car. His spend 1 to reduce down to 1 has no minimum and it just says like when you would take damage, so presumably it is okay that he then spent another 1 to just take nothing from getting hit into the car. If that's wrong, it doesn't really matter, because then she followed up with a psychotic bolt. That's not what it's called. Psionic, that's the word. Psionic bolt. Got a couple of pierces in that one, and managed to do 3 to him. He didn't bother spending to reduce that because it was more than enough to take off at that point his last 1 health. So Bill over here is dazed, and he had a hammer as well. Forgot about that. Is that droppable within Jean distance? Yeah, definitely is. So she's going to pay 1 to pick that up. We'll double check that is within range 1, but it looks it to me. So she'll be holding that because she still had 2 power left. Well, Professor X tried to stay standing, but against the deadliest woman in the galaxy, it's a bit hard. Gamora activated. She swung with her Godslayer sword into Charles for 3 damage. Then she did it again. It would have done 3, so Xavier's Dream was played. Other allied characters can pay 1, and then the attack gets reduced by 1 for each power spent, so it brought it down to 1, leaving him on 1 health, but then she just paid 2 for Assassin's Leap, yeeted herself into him, and that's enough that he is unfortunately dazed. She is then also paying 1 to pick up the hammer he was holding. Catastrophic. She doesn't have much health left, mind you, but that's still pretty bad. Oh, actually, wouldn't it make more sense to just leave it for Agent Venom, because yeah, Xavier was the last person to go. So you might as well have it on the person with more health. Yeah, so yeah, Agent Venom is going to act. I don't know where he's going to move, but he'll go pick that up because that's the smarter choice. Man, Agent Venom can zoom across the table when he wants to. He did a medium move on the far side of where the hammer by Xavier got dropped. Paid 1 power, picked it up. Paid 2 power, the web swing, or symbiotic swing, whatever. Placed within 3, and then another medium move. Got him right back to his home Gamma Shower, contesting it. Oh wait, no, he's not contesting it, because he's on his wounded side, and Angel is not. So never mind, that is actually still claimed, but now he and Peter are there to take Angel out in the next round. On that note, it's on to scoring. At the end of round 3, despite it feeling like the dice are favouring one side over the other, it's actually still pretty even. Guardians of the Galaxy have 2 hammers, 1 on Gamora, 1 on Agent Venom, and they hold the furthest Gamma Shower from where they started, so with Gamora. So they are gaining 2 there as well. So they gained a total of 4, taking them up to 10. The Avengers. The X-Men have the other 2 hammers. Angel has 1 and Jean Grey has 1 for 2. They hold the middle Gamma Shower for 1. And they also hold the furthest from their start Gamma Shower because Angel is on his healthy side for another 2. So they gained 5, giving them a 1-point lead. 11 playing 10. As we go into round 4, it also means the X-Men have taken first activation because of just the way that worked out. Xavier's flipping his card, Star-Lord's flipping his card, and Better Ray Bill is flipping his card. This is where the fun begins. So Professor X activated to get round 4 started. Totally forgot to film who got the Winging It tokens though for the Guardians. Bill, Agent Venom, and Star-Lord got them. Anyway, so Xavier activated. He immediately spent 1 to mentally suggest to Gamora It spiked. He only needed to do 1 damage, but the mental suggestion was just in case. So she was dazed, she dropped the hammer, he paid 1 and picked it up. He then used mental suggestion on Better Ray Bill just to try and really pull him out of position, like get him down here. He paid 1 to make sure the 1 damage they got through did no damage, so that doesn't proc the forced move because you have to deal damage. So it seems like that's the order that goes in. So he gets to stay right there, and he's not doing anything else. Peter activated and immediately used his full auto on Angel, doing a ridiculous 5 damage. Takes him out. He can't immediately switch to Archangel. It's when he would flip his card, so it's between rounds, or as we go into round 5 if it gets that far. However, in taking him out, he made Professor X very cross. So Professor X dropped 3 on Mind Wipe, which gives him access to enough, which he can do from anywhere, does not require line of sight, no or unlimited range. 3 dice base plus how much damage was done, 5 in this case, and if it deals damage you give an activated token. Well, it spiked pretty hard on poor Peter's brain, and managed to do 6 to him, which took him from being on the table to no longer being on the table. So Star-Lord is out of there, and I forgot to mention he did use Plucky Attitude on his initial roll for rolling against Angel because he had no hit successes, so you can re-roll everything. But that doesn't matter because Professor X blew up his brain. So that means that the hammer that Angel was holding is just on the floor now. It's been placed next to Agent Venom though, who can obviously just go pick it up. But that was an out of sequence thing that took Star-Lord out, so it's still over to the X-Men. He would have been given an activated token, and if it was his turn, it would end immediately anyway, so he wouldn't have been able to do a second thing. But it's good to get him off the table. Well, Jean tried to do some big plays there because she abandoned the central gamma shelter. She moved medium. The reason she's standing there is she couldn't quite get within range 1 of the back one from where she was standing. She is within 2, so she's not going to get gamma damage. But that was so she was within range 3 of the newsstand. She paid 3, chucked it into Agent Venom, did 3 damage to him, which is pretty good. She then did a psionic bolt, hoping to finish him off. He has 3 health left. She only managed the 1. She didn't stick the landing. He didn't even use his winging it token. So 4 of his 6 health is gone. She didn't try and pick up the hammer there so he can still get it. And now she's not holding anything. She's just safe. If it does go to an extra turn, that might put her in a position to absolutely just destroy him if it gets that far, because I don't think the Guardians can get enough to win this round, but I guess we'll see. Agent Venom activated, spent 1, threw an incendiary grenade. Again, those aren't really supposed to do a lot of damage, it's just supposed to set you on fire, but it set Jean on fire and did 3 damage to her. He then just tried to do his basic attack on her, which is also 5 dice physical though instead of energy. That managed to do 2, so she's taken 5 in total. She is pretty tanky on her day side, she's got 7 health. So she has 2 left. He did also pay 1 to pick up the hammer that was dropped by Angel, so he was holding 2 for those attacks, so there was extra dice thrown in to be fair. But he couldn't quite finish Jean off either. He is the only one holding that objective, mind you, and the X-Men's turn is over because of Angel getting dazed. Because Gamora's dazed now, it's also just over to Better Ray Bill. Oh, and that's all they wrote, or she wrote rather, for Jean. Better Ray Bill moved into position to capture the central gamma shelter. Was paid 2, was it, or 1? 2 on Call the Storm. So he was getting different rerolls from different places. 2 rerolls from Jean having the flight special roll, and that's just off Summon the Storm, and 2 from the Winging It token. He managed to do 3, and she had... how much did she have left? Oh, that was exactly how much. Well, would you look at that? It felt like she was coming back. It felt like she was actually getting stuff done all of a sudden. Like, she had a pretty decent turn because she had like almost 10 power to play with. But then she went back to being useless. Anyway, she dropped the hammer that she was holding, and Better Ray Bill has picked it up, and that takes us to scoring. At the end of round 4, the Guardians of the Galaxy have 3 hammers, 2 of them on Agent Venom, 1 on Better Ray Bill. They hold their home shelter, they hold the middle, so they gained 5, taking them up to 15, 1 away from the minimum required to win. But I think I don't think it's going to be able to be caught up on. The X-Men scored 2. Xavier is holding the home gamma shelter, and he has the other hammer, so they scored 2, taking them up to 13. We're still going to just see how the first activation of round 5 goes, because X-Men were retaining first activation, and we'll at least get to see Archangel appear on the table. So let's just go do that and see if it makes any difference. So as we begin the 5th and final round, Fallen comes into effect. When an allied angel would flip his stat card to the injured side, you play this card, and you put Archangel on the table. well, after everybody within range 2 of Angel being pushed away small and being given the bleed status, you then place Archangel within 1 of him. So he has appeared here. Agent Venom and Beta Ray Bill both got pushed away and are now bleeding. And he's got 6 power to play with because you transfer the power over. And anything else except objectives, I presume. Yeah, because you're dazed, so you won't be holding any anyway. You just gain power equal to the amount Angel had, and then you remove Angel from the game. Yep, so we'll see what he can do. So Archangel is pretty cool, although he's very hard to get a shot on where you can actually like see him because of how his wings are. He has a passive called Chosen of Apocalypse. He can change one die result to a hit for each wild in his attack roll. His attack roll had 4 wilds in it, so he did very well there. Agent Venom did pretty well with his defense, to be fair. Oh, the attack he did, he spent 3 on Avatar of Death, 7 dice physical, range 3, with Neurotoxin on a wild, and basically that means if the target has bleed already, they get an activated token. So that's how they synergize with that tactics card that changes him to Archangel. His normal attacks as Archangel do bleed as well, I think. But if they didn't have bleed, it would have just staggered, which is also still pretty good. Doesn't really matter, because that damage is enough that Agent Venom is out of there. He moved for his second action to get away from Beta Ray Bill, staying within 1 of this Gamma Shelter and paying 2 to pick up the 2 hammers that Agent Venom was holding. That means they don't have a literal 0 chance of winning, but it actually depends on how well Professor X, how much health does he have? 5 health on his dazed side, can withstand both of them trying to murder him. I don't think he will, but there is a outside chance that they will still win this if he can hold on, or just hold on enough. Now, I think I forgot to mention in the original attacks that Gamora was doing against Professor X in the previous turn, she was paying both times to make him use his base defense of 2, not 6. Same happened here, 2 basic attacks from Bill into Professor X. He paid 2 power both times to force him to have only 2 defense dice. Both hits managed to do a consistent 2 damage each, leaving him on 1 health. So Bill isn't really scoring anything, but, well, 1 because he had a hammer. Gamora just needs to do 1 damage to Professor X, so literally just 1 damage. They will then score 2 for this back shelter. She will score 1 herself for picking up the hammer he has, and that's 1 for Beta Ray, so that means they would gain 2, 4. They would gain 4. Archangel is currently also gaining 4, but they're behind. The Guardians are still ahead by 2, so they'll still win on those grounds. But it will mean technically both will hit the minimum of 16, I think. So let's see if Gamora can take out Professor X. I don't know why we bothered stopping. She did it in the most BM way possible. She paid 2 for Assassin's Leap and just chucked herself at the man in a wheelchair, who has to, like, his telepathic defense doesn't work on dodges. It's only if he's attacked, and that's a superpower. So he's just rolling 2 against that. So she just whapped into his wheelchair, knocked him over, and took him out. That is boo, I say. That the crowd is booing Gamora. She paid 1, picked up the hammer he is holding. So let's go to scoring, because that's the end of the game. So with that travesty that Gamora just did, they more than have enough scored to win. Just the hammers they have between the 2 of them, 1 hammer each takes them to 17, I think it was. So they're actually at 19 because they score 2 for holding the Gamma Shelter furthest from them. Archangel is scoring 4 points on his own 2 hammers, and he's holding the furthest Gamma Shelter from where X-Men started. So that takes him up to 17. So honestly, not bad. Barely anyone left standing on the table, but both sides managed to get over the 16, and they only lost by 2. 17 playing 19. Alright. Don't really have any additional thoughts for the end of this one, other than it was fun and it was close, and sometimes even the small threat matches can be exciting. If Professor X had stood up against the onslaught there, they actually would have won, because he would have been contesting the shelter, which would take away 2, and he would still hold on to the hammer. So yeah, they would have won. It all came down to Gamora committing a war crime on him. Let that sink in. Gamora did a war crime. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. Please do remember to show your support for the series. Liking or commenting, it all helps the algorithm and helps the channel out. If you can spare it and are willing to do so, please do consider becoming a channel member. You get access to certain videos early, including this series and others, before everyone else, usually by about a week, give or take. There are also some other little perks. The long-term videos are private for members only, that kind of thing. Or you can check out the channel sponsor to pick up something for yourself. If you do so via the affiliate link, I get compensated as well, which helps the channel out, while you also just pick up something for yourself. That's where I get my Crisis Protocol models from. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day, and I shall see you next time. Start for now.